In the previous video, we looked at shading a cylinder structure. In this video, we're going to take a look at the cone. And in the next video, we're going to talk about shading a sphere. And you can now understand the importance of having a grid to help you better get a sense of what the cast shadows are going to look like. So that's another reason why we're using that. So let's go ahead and talk about the cone. So I'll make a brand new layer. And I'm going to hit the brush tool. I'm going to make sure that I switch back to my pencil brush, and I will draw a cone. And just for giggles, I'm just going to move the sun to this side, just to have something different. And let's consider the possibility of the cone rather. I'll draw the surface here and draw it kind of pointing out. And again, this is my dotted lines. So I'm always drawing my contours. Let's just say that this is my cone. The light is coming from the left side on the top. And I want you to just keep the lighting very simple here. I don't want you to go crazy with the light. The idea is to understand basic lighting. For more complex, drawings, you will hopefully look at some references, or you'll have a better idea of how to do that with, when you're actually seeing something in a physical sense. I just want to keep the examples very simple so that they are achievable, they're doable. So I've drawn my cone. The next thing I want to do is I want to also indicate a believable shadow source. So I'll make a brand new layer. What's going to end up happening is we're going to see everything roughly past this point start to get some shading as it goes around. And then our cast shadow will be like so. And usually, when your sun is at high noon, when it's really overhead on top of you, you don't really see much of a shadow, but as the sun kind of moves off to one of the edges, the shadow elongates, right? Do we have a specific measurement of how long or how much it's going to elongate? No, we want to just make it look believable, right? The idea is these exercises are to make drawings look believable. If you're going to be doing something very, precision oriented, you definitely want to have a reference, either a photo or you want to actually have an actual subject. But we're just doing something so we have a basic understanding of how shading works. So again, this is my shadow layer. I've just indicated that. I'll make a new layer above that just so that I can get rid of those lines later on. I'll go back to my soft round brush, and what we'll note here is that as this light hits, it starts out very faint and it gets progressively darker as we go away from it. So it starts out light and it gets progressively darker. So I picked a darker value there. And I'm just trying to blend these transitions as much as I can to make it look more seamless. I'll lower the brush size so I can really get precise. You can do that. Don't be afraid to raise the size of your brush or lower the size of your brush. That's perfectly a normal thing to do. What's not normal is using the same size brush everywhere. All right, now I'm going to draw my cast shadow. It gets lighter as we get further away. It's the darkest at the base. It's okay if you go outside of the lines a little bit, because we're going to clean that up with the lasso tool. So now what I can do is I can hide those lines, come back in with the polygon lasso tool, clean up that edge, clean up this edge over here, and we've got our cone, right? Again, I'm looking for believability. At this stage, what I'm wanting you to focus on is, can you make those transitions from light to dark look more or less seamless? So maybe at the very light end of the spectrum, you go very, very light. You press very light, use a lighter value, right? And then as you start to work your way towards the mid-tones and the dark values, you can see it gets progressively darker. So in the next video, we'll talk about the sphere, which is, I think, probably one of the more complex ones. That's why I left it for last. And we'll talk about shading the sphere. See you then.